Hello, friends. Welcome to my humble show, Filipino Hustle Fridays. For those of you who know, I have multiple series, but this is one of my favorite series because I get to speak to people like Geronimo Ramos and talk about Filipino entrepreneurship, Filipino Americans trying to hustle and make life the best that's possible, which is getting financial freedom and creative freedom and all things that entrepreneurship really awards people who try. So thank you so much, Geronimo, for hopping on my humble show.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to do a brief intro, and then you can, of course, mention, tell us more. We're going to dive deep into your story. So you are a chef, a product designer, and a YouTuber, and all things creative entrepreneur. And so I'm really excited to talk about your story. So tell me a little bit about how you ended up where you are right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a long origin story. I'll try to be brief and concise, but I always like to start my story with my parents. I was born to Filipino immigrants who met in Los Angeles. They met in the 80s. But my dad worked in hospitality and hotels, and my mom worked in government and social services. So I always tell people, from a young age, that instilled in me the values of creating great experiences for people, but also rooting it back into community service needs. So I've always been like a person who likes to host great experiences for people and be hospitable. I mean, that's normally very Filipino trait. But remembering to give back to my community, so that when I went to school, when I got into college, I studied business and emphasized in social impact and making a difference in communities. So it's interesting. I got into business, but when I was in business school, I learned about this methodology called design thinking that kind of resonated more with how I operate in the world, just like empathy, working with diverse teams, and like coming up with different solutions together. It was very against the grain of the rest of my business peers who were like becoming investment bankers or management consultants. I was just a very sensitive guy. I could feel other people's emotions, hospitality, all that stuff. So coming out of business school, I became a designer. And at first, I started providing those design skills to nonprofits and international development because of the social impact side. But there wasn't a lot of money to be made in that space. I knew that going into it, but I knew I wanted more for myself. So in 2016, I moved to Silicon Valley to really break into technology and UX and UI. I did a boot camp that no longer exists, but fast tracked my way through startups and learned a lot and worked with different startups, developed those skills, and really refined my UX UI design skills and business growth skills. But the ultimate dream was to return back to my roots in food, which I could backtrack. That's also a past story. And ultimately work in food tech to kind of get the best of all worlds. Kind of the trifecta of design, business, food, and ultimately landed my dream job at a food tech company, Full Harvest, in 2021 along the way, and then got into food as well and wanted to start sharing food education through content. Yeah, that's kind of some of the story there.
That's so cool. And I know we have a visual later on to pull up later to just show what you did with Full Harvest. And so which part did you live at? I know you mentioned you lived in Daly City for about 6 months or so, and then you're now at Alameda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm representing San Francisco here. Yeah. People know, some people know that I'm from San Francisco, so that's why I'm representing. Gonna go ahead and take that hat off. But yeah, no, it's so awesome. I'm so glad that you and I both know the Bay Area. And how has it been there, just kind of surviving in Silicon Valley? It's not easy. I live there as a young person with my parents, raising us little kids in the Bay Area, and it's not easy. So what's it been like for you?
Yes, I'm originally from LA. I'm an LA boy and bougie the Bay in 2016, first in Daly City for like 6 months while I did the boot camp because I was like not making income at that time. And then I moved to the Mission for like 2.5, 3 years. And then I moved to Oakland for 2 years, and then now in Alameda for 2 years. And personally, I've loved it. I always mention that this is like where I've spread my wings. I lived, because I moved out here 2016, 7 years ago. Let me try to do some math. When I was around 23 or 24 years old. So I kind of lived my 20s throughout my 20s here. It was, I like to think of it as like my post-grad experience. Like it was, because I learned so much working in Silicon Valley. But yeah, in my 20s, it was hustle hard, not make a lot of money until I did. But getting by, I was lucky to have a $1,200 bedroom in the Mission. Like, it's weird to say that's a deal, but it was a deal. Where like
Yeah.
in San Francisco.
I mean, that does sound good for San Francisco, actually.
Yeah. It was, I loved living in the Mission. So much good food and culture out there. And when I moved to Oakland, it was different. And then when I moved to Alameda, it's the perfect environment for me and my partner. We are beachy island people. You can tell it's the brand is on point. And we always want to live by the water. So we live at the beach now. So it's really nice. But it is expensive. I think even when we had dual tech salary incomes, which we're very fortunate and privileged.
Yeah.
And like could afford things. It was within budget. But I'm like, do we want to spend this much money in the long term, right? We need to think about the long term. And so some people might not like to hear this, but maybe next year we're moving back down to LA or San Diego to be closer to my parents and save some money. I'll probably fly back a lot for work and opportunities, but that's the vibe. Yeah.
No, I know. I mean, there's kind of like a mass exodus right now from what I'm hearing. And then tech companies are making it kind of more easy for people to work full-time remote. So I still miss living out there, and I'm glad I got to visit my family this summer. LA area. Which part are you guys from originally of LA?
My parents live in the San Gabriel Valley, in a city called
That's a
Arcadia.
nice area. Yeah.
Arcadia has like the best. San Gabriel Valley has like the best Chinese food in the country. Asian food in general too.
Yeah. Well, I heard Arcadia is also like that's where Uber, like really private Uber wealthy Asians.
It's got a nickname called like the Chinese Beverly Hills, which is funny because we're not like that. My parents still live in like a condo apartment.
Wait, did you ever meet Joe Coy then? Because I'm wearing his shirt.
I have not. I want to at some point, but I love the Mahal. Yeah.
No, I got lucky. Did you? Okay. He actually came out for a show in Tallahassee of all places. So yeah, we got to see him in the VIP section. Like I was like, I'm going to meet him because there's no way I'm going to ever meet him again. So yeah, no, I'm just wondering because, Filipinos being a small community in LA in general. So I was like, oh, maybe he met Joe Coy.
I hope to meet him soon. I've met some random other Filipino celebrities like Apple from Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
At a Korean barbecue spot.
Oh, cool.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, is that Apple the app? Yeah, I just saw him sitting there in a booth eating food. I'm like, is it weird? Should I go up to him and take a photo?
Yeah, he seems very approachable.
I was like, hey, Kuya, can I take a photo? He's like, yeah. Where other celebrities I've met hasn't been the best experience. Yeah.
So then, okay, you founded this thing called Rooted Table in 2017.
Yes.
It sounds like, okay, it's a marketplace for cultural, home-cooked meal experiences. Yeah, tell me about that, and then we can talk about La Casse. Is La Casse Kitchen? I'm horrible.
Yeah, La Casse. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'll start with Rooted Table.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like when I was really getting into the weeds of startups in Silicon Valley, and I started to fall in love with the business model of marketplaces because like Airbnb was so hot. Like the Airbnb of this, the Airbnb of that. Like what underutilized asset can we have people rent or like shop on a marketplace?
Right.
And like many food enthusiasts, one of my role models is Anthony Bourdain. And
Yeah.
I think in one of his episodes, he mentioned like in America, we can feel like we travel and ate far in another country without leaving our communities. Like if you live in a metropolitan area, like you have your Chinatown neighborhood, in LA you have your Koreatown neighborhood, and you can. Some people say that food in Koreatown is better than food in Korea. So that really inspired me. And my mom is in her 70s now, so back then she was in like her late 60s, but she has been retired for a couple of years at that point. And I noticed that she was like losing passion and purpose in her retirement. Like she started traveling, which you do in retirement. She enjoyed that, but she was losing energy, like empty nester and all that stuff. And whenever she would visit me in San Francisco, she would love cooking for my friends. That brought her joy and like purpose. And I was like, my Airbnb mind, I was like, how do I monetize this? And I was just like, oh, like when she cooked for my friends, she shared what Filipino food was and like why we use certain flavors, why we use our hands. And they learned a lot. And I was like, okay, how do I do more of this? So I came up with the idea of Rooted Table, which is a marketplace for cultural home cooked meal experiences, not just like home cooked food.
Oh.
So I was inspired by another business that was coming up at that time. Like there's a couple of them that exist now, but I wanted to focus on the experience aspect of it. Like you sit down at the dinner table with some strangers. Like it feels very neighborly. And then like you get a 3, 4, 5 course meal and you learn how to cook one of the dishes. So we started with a couple prototyped experiences. My mom would teach people how to roll lumpia.
Oh, I love it.
Teach people like, oh, this is sinigang, this is tocino, all these things. And like people would just have this great experience. And we would feature like different farmers we bought food from the farmers market, just to go like, oh, we're like local. And we started with my mom, did a couple experiences, made like $700 in revenue. It was great.
Yeah.
And then started experimenting with other friends' moms. Had a Taiwanese dinner, had a Mexican dinner.
Oh, nice.
It was exciting. People loved it. But the business model seemed tricky at that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't technically legal, right? Home kitchens aren't up to code. But there is now a new California law that lets you do these things at home. But back then it wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my passion. And I actually put it through a Y Combinator startup school program.
You got accepted.
Not the core program. It was like a startup. It's like a sub program. Yeah.
That's impressive though. That's still really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Loved it. Enjoyed that experience and made some revenue. That's always a marker of like, oh, it's a real thing. But ultimately, I'm taking that in a different direction now. And I just want to keep the name Rooted Table.
Yeah.
But spin it off into more of a food media company.
Oh, and then is that why you started getting into YouTube?
Oh, that's a good question. YouTube is an interesting journey because as I became a chef, I realized I did not want to, for now, do the full-time restaurant operations lifestyle. Like that's just a different lifestyle. Like you have a different schedule. Right now in my life, I want to cook what I want to cook, when I want to cook, and have free time for myself and for important things with my family and friends.
Yeah.
And I want food media and YouTube to help support the cooking journey.
Right.
And I just love teaching people. It's one of my passions, just like learning things and then sharing what I'm learning along the way. So
I love that. Yeah, the restaurant business is one of the most, I think anybody who goes through it and just keeps going, I just like, I don't know how y'all do it. I don't, the restaurant, I don't, like, I barely can cook for my own family. I'd rather cook with people. Like that's I have fun cooking with people. and,
Yeah.
with family members and stuff like that. And people love what I cook, but I just like, I can't. So with restaurants, like I don't, it's amazing. And then, so you now, like, you found a place where you can do what you love and then record it, document it, and share it with people.
Yeah.
And teach people.
It's fun. Like this, that's why I love focusing on pop-ups too, because they're not forever. They're just like, oh, I'm cooking this every few weeks with different chefs. Just like, this one Filipino food pop-up I did a couple weeks ago with my chef mentor, Chef Harold Villarosa.
Awesome.
Love that guy. I've learned so much from him. Actually, exactly about a year ago, I was in the Bahamas with him as his sous chef. We were cooking for the Tiger Woods Hero Golf Tournament.
What? That's awesome.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I can confidently say that.
It's the hardest?
Yes. We cooked for like 3,000 to 4,000 people over 4 dinners in over about a week and a half for the golf tournament.
Oh my gosh.
Feeding all these like famous celebrity golfers and different like, I didn't know all the celebrities, but they were coming from like sports. What's that? I don't know what the name of the show. Sports arena area.
Yeah.
It's on ESPN.
There's like a celebrity tournament. Like they had invited a bunch of other celebrities that don't typically, maybe like Steph Curry or something. I know Steph Curry plays golf.
It was a billionaire resort. I was like, oh, this is next level. Like I walked around the corner, there was all these mega yachts, and then Chef Harold was like, oh, that's Justin Timberlake's recording studio. He also owns this resort. I was like, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, I've cooked for the Smith family here, Will and Jada. I'm like, oh,
wow.
That's cool. Anyway, that was the first time I had a management position in cooking in the like most high pressure environment.
Congratulations.
Yes, I had to manage like a cooking brigade or teams of 30 to 40 people in a different country, different culture. And if that's not like the fastest, most difficult learning environment ever, I don't know what is. But ultimately, it was successful. I learned so much and had a good time. At the time, I was like, I don't know if I could do this again. But a year later, I'm like, I could do it again. But the golf tournament's already happening, so.
I mean, here,
other
like
opportunities,
you've already got it done, and you say you can say you're a celebrity chef, like you've helped.
It's true.
And so here's the thing. Okay, I know sometimes with some events you can't like share anything if it's a private event. You can't like publicize that. But in the chef community, if you've done those kinds of things, you're allowed to say that you've done celebrity events, right? Like there's nothing illegal about that. So how did you meet these chefs? Like I see, you shared these pictures with us. All of these chefs. So tell us the story about all of them.
Yes. So one of the like recommendations I have for people trying to hustle in their 20s and 30s, depending where you are in the season of your life. But like my saying is, hold on, let me get this right. Goodwill. Come back. The word goodwill. There we go. There you go. Goodwill compounds faster than your money. And I mean that in terms of like, be willing to put yourself out there and volunteer a lot to the point where you don't burn yourself out. But like, like when I met these chefs at different dinners or events where I was either working or volunteering, I would like do my rounds and make myself present. Like, hey, Chef Harold, like you're one of my role models. I saw you on Bon Appetit on YouTube. I know you just moved to the Bay Area from New York. This was a year ago. I'm like, hey, if you ever need help with one of your pop-ups or anything, like I'm happy to help.
That's awesome.
I just presented myself, and they were always paid opportunities and learning opportunities. Same with Chef Michelle Minori. I met her at a pop-up dinner at my friend's pop-up. And I told her like, hey, you were one of my favorite chefs from San Francisco representing on Top Chef. Like, I want to help you. So pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and realizing there's nothing to lose by making yourself known, handing out a business card, and hoping for the best.
Wow.
Like reduce your expectations because people are busy, but sometimes you might get lucky. So do the uncomfortable and increase your surface area of luck. That's what I told people.
That's really cool. I feel like that's the mindset that a lot of, like we had talked about it earlier, the mindset among our Filipino fellow Filipinos, there's a lot of fear, and it's just like, it doesn't hurt to just try and ask. But I really think that, because if somebody at a Michelin level just like, I would be fearful too, like, oh, they would never say yes to me, I don't have the experience or whatever. So something about you, obviously they were willing to work with you. I feel like you're somebody who is easy to work with. And then there's you have had some experience probably too. They don't say yes to everybody. So there has to be something.
Yeah,
right?
I could speak to that actually. I think it comes back to my design experience too, actually.
Oh.
Which I can talk to you about a little bit. But yeah, I'm easygoing. I'm not going to yell back. If you yell at me, I'm just going to be like, whoa, let's take that in. Slow things down. I wonder why they're mad. Stressful environments. These are it's been a switch working a desk job. I will tell you that, because in a kitchen you can't circle back, right? You got to solve on the spot. There are customers waiting, and there are time limits. But yeah, because I'm easygoing, I'm definitely a learner, and I like to communicate as best as possible, which communication is pivotal in these environments. But it's also the way I approach things. Like, I'm meticulous with detail, because as a designer, it's all in the details, and I'm systematic in my approach and methods, right? Like, I need data firsthand and try to understand how it all works.
Yeah.
And then I can dive in stronger operationally and be more methodical and targeted, instead of just like, oh yeah, I'm all over the place, I'm chaotic. It's weird. Yeah. Becoming a more orderly person is also a new thing, as I've entered my 30s too.
Yeah, no, I feel like I operate the same way. I have to know the big picture and the whole picture. And then I'm pretty detailed too. I like to have a process in place. But that is so impressive. Did you like build those relationships, and then eventually they're like, hey, can you come with me to like you said, who did you work with again, at the Bahamas? It was
Chef Harold Villarosa.
Chef. Yeah. Okay. So how did that work out for you?
It was very funny, actually. So that was the time I was actually leaving Full Harvest, which we could talk about in a little bit.
Okay.
I was leaving full-time work in tech because I was working with a creative business coach at that time, who helped me realize, shout out to Amelia, if you're looking for a business coach. She helped me realize, like, you have these dreams on one hand, but you're spending 40 hours a week on this other thing. Like, it's really hard to muster up the energy and kick off entrepreneurship when you're dedicating that much time and energy to something else, someone else's vision. Although it was my dream job, I realized, I did the exercise, like, where am I going to be 10 years from now? It would be somewhere else. So I realized I needed to move to like part-time work. And while I was leaving that company, at the same time I was talking to HR, Chef Harold was texting me. He's like, hey, what are you doing, blood? Like, what are you doing from this day to this day? Do you want to cook for Tiger Woods for his golf tournament? I was like, whoa, this is intense. He's like, be my sous chef. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I've only been a line cook and prep cook. Half the time a volunteer, half the time paid. But, I mustered up the courage. I communicated. I'm like, what does this role entail? And I love it. Chef Harold, thank you for saying this. He said the most chef thing ever. He's like, kitchen-ish. And I was like, okay, I can do kitchen stuff.
That's funny.
And I was like, okay, I could do kitchen stuff. It's no big deal. And then when I showed up, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was management. It was managing kitchens and teams, ordering food, inventory management. I'm like, whoa, I have not done any of this. I'm doing a horrible job.
Do you feel like you went? I mean, it sounds like it went well.
It was a success, ultimately.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think because they trusted my character,
that
I could do the job. Also, honestly, the tech and design experience, just like being methodical, being detail-oriented, and being willing to learn, not like being hard to work with ultimately, yeah.
Wow. And I feel like they probably know. I mean, sometimes people see it in us and we don't see it in ourselves that we can do something. And that's amazing. He gave you that opportunity and trusted you, and he knew you could handle the pressure and the stress, because that's a whole nother level right there. Just
Yeah.
for celebrities.
Yes. And like big investors, billionaire investors.
That's so cool. Did you ever get a chance to talk to them? Anybody? I know
I
they
was
have
so busy. That's why I have no content. Like there was like zero time
You
to
saw them
record
though.
anything. I saw them, yes, and they said the food was good. It's a lot of questions like, "What is this? I've never had this," and I'm like, "This is basic food. I don't know why they've never had curried potatoes." That was the hardest night. Indian night. We had to cook Indian food, and that was very difficult because there was
So
like
you do
20
different genres.
sauces. Yes.
Okay.
We did Indian food, Bahamian food, the local cuisine, sushi night. It's a sushi night. We didn't have to do the sushi, luckily, but all the other dishes we had to do.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
This is so cool. I love it. And so, okay, you have your own recipes too?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull those up. And those are the things you also teach on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately my angle with the food is like feel good recipes. In other words, like
Uh-oh. It froze a second. If you can hear me, you can hop back off and then you can hop back on. I think it'll let you, I think. He'll be right back on. Hopefully he'll just like he'll hop back on, and then but yeah, no, this is pretty cool. Hopefully his internet is okay. Let me see. He'll in a second. Let's give him a second. But yeah, as you can see, like he has had awesome experiences with Michelin level chefs and mentoring him. He's willing to learn. So that's pretty amazing for Geronimo. And he even had that recent pop-up. I know we're bouncing around here. He had a pop-up with Mosa in Soma. That's so cool. Y'all need to follow him on Instagram. Let me go ahead and pull him up. Here's his website. And here's his Instagram. I even have his other Instagram account pulled up. There he goes.
Sorry, internet cut out.
No, don't worry. That's happened before. And that's one thing I didn't even mention earlier. Like hop back off and hop back on. That's
Yeah.
But yeah, you were
I
saying.
think we're good now. Yes.
Yeah, feel good recipe.
What's the last thing that was hurt?
The part when you said feel good recipes and then it just kind of froze.
Got it. Okay. To pick up from there, yeah, my feel good recipes, in other words, they're comfort food recipes that we're familiar with and love, but elevated with higher quality ingredients and healthier substitutions or spins.
Yes.
It's inspired by the fact that I want to eat healthier and envision a community of healthier Filipinos, but also I cook food beyond Filipino food like pad thai. And then just look forward. I just finished recording last night a chicken pho video. So classic comfort foods. And yeah, I just want us to enjoy the foods that we love and kind of do it guilt-free, if that makes sense. And it's also inspired by my partner. She has a lot of food allergies and restrictions, like the typical stuff, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, all that stuff. And luckily, I can make these spin-off recipes that she can enjoy and I can enjoy. And it's just familiar for our taste buds.
That's awesome. I know we were talking about how you want to start doing some versions, a healthier version. There needs to be more out there of a Filipino genre. Maybe it's a fusion. And so, yeah, it's crossed my mind. Like, I wonder if somebody out there is experimenting with, gluten-free options or, vegan, which is, I don't know how possible that is with because we love
Oh,
our pork.
yeah. So with Lacoste, my Filipino food pop-up, I was going to go in that direction. More plant forward than plant based, just like more vegetable forward, meat as like a side or a flavoring agent, not the star. Usually meat's a star of every dish, which honestly is more of a creative challenge.
Yeah.
But these days I'm just more inspired to do elevated Filipino California comfort food for now.
Yeah.
When I get back to a mood of cooking more with vegetables, then I will. Yeah.
So I know you do a lot of content creation, and for anyone who's curious about it, like there's a lot of, now that I'm seeing it, especially on Instagram or even on YouTube, like amazing, talented content creators that focus on food, especially Filipino food. How do you manage all of that? Because to reach some level of success on each platform, it's a lot of time.
Oh yeah. I had to learn that the hard way because it was back in April where I started posting a long form video on YouTube every week. And like, of course, the process is idea generation, script writing, getting feedback on it, and then filming it, film and cook at the same time, which is very difficult, especially if you're just one person because your food could be burning, right? Like you're moving the camera angles, your food's still cooking, it's not waiting for you. And then you edit the videos,
Yeah.
you publish at the right time, and then you repurpose across platforms. So that's a full-time job on top of other things I'm doing, still doing part-time design, still doing part-time cooking. I think it was a couple months ago where this is the biggest tip I have for content creators, especially long form, get an editor. That will save you time. And because editing a long form video almost took me like 10 hours a week.
Serious. Yeah.
So I was just like, that's 10 hours, not down the drain, but like I have other things to do that are high value too. And I imagine if I have a family at that time, like 10 hours is a lot of time. So I'm thinking about the future once I'm married and have kids, which might be in a year or so.
Yay.
And so I actually hired an editor, and luckily it was a person in the Philippines. So I feel like I'm supporting like my own community and helping them live upper middle class life with editing money. So yeah, that saves me time. So that's one tip I like to share with people, and like continue to live a more balanced lifestyle. I will say I left the 9-to-5 life of working 40 hours a week to become an entrepreneur, to work 60 hours a week, but love what I do. Like
that is the joke.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're happy.
I'm happy. It's growing in ways that I haven't expected. I think my more optimistic mindset thought that I would be further along than where I am now, but what I'm doing is sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Not everyone can say they cooked for a Tiger Woods event. You worked with Michelin chefs like that. That is such an impressive resume. And I'm really excited about what you are going to do in the next 5 to 10 years. So I know you mentioned that you had left your 9-to-5, but I want to share what you shared with us. This is what you designed or helped with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I redesigned all of this. I wish you saw that before picture, but ultimately Full Harvest is like a B2B marketplace for imperfect and surplus produce. So helping farms that like grow sweet potatoes, and they ultimately end up with like 3 million pounds of imperfect, misshapen products that usually go to waste. So like, how do we find them a buyer? So it's kind of like the Airbnb model where there's like buyers and sellers. So that was my dream job because it tackled food systems, and climate change, all that stuff. And yeah, that's, I mean, I haven't mentioned this. I mentioned behind stage, but like my expertise in technology is marketplaces. I love thinking through the buyer experience and the seller experience. They're just very different. and how do we use technology to facilitate the experience in between.
Wow, this is cool. Did you work on this?
The website? The marketing
Yeah.
website? No, I did not. It's
Okay.
all the stuff behind the scenes. So everything you see in the image, even if you click sign up, sign up flow, like we increased the conversion by like over 20%.
Okay.
To make it more fun and engaging. Like if you click one of those, you get like fun little icons.
Oh, cool.
And it's just a questionnaire experience. It's very common in e-commerce.
It's like you got to start with that, and then from there you customize based off of that data.
It's like you either start with a browsing experience or like a more focused experience. Like if you were coming up to me and I'm like, hey, what are you looking for? Carrots, ginger? Let me show you what we have and bring some value to you first before you give up your personal information to us, right?
Yeah. No, that's great. I love it. And I was saying earlier too that every time I read about UX, user experience and everything, I'm just like, I love this. This is like everything I like about design, because I'm not one of those super meticulous, detailed designers that will like illustrate all day kind of thing. But I do love how you have to understand the whole experience, the process of taking one person from one point to another to get them to do what you want them to do. I know it's like gotten kind of competitive out there. I have some UX friends.
Oh yeah, it's very, I'm lucky. I'm at a point like 10 years into it now that the opportunities come to me. What a privilege. I know, not a big space to be in. But when you were saying that, it makes me think of, this is where my value of hospitality comes in. I think UX is hospitality. Like you have to think about your customers, your users. What are they feeling? What are they expecting? What are their motivations interacting with your platform or before? Like, how do they learn about you? And ultimately, what we're trying to do is improve the quality of life. Weird thing to say with technology, but it's true. Again, it's very true. Micro ways, right? Like we were talking about this platform, StreamYard. Like if it's not easy to use, you're reducing my quality of life. I don't want to feel these emotions. I don't want to feel frustrated. How do we make it feel intuitive? And that's how I do it with food too. I believe the better our back of house operations and systems, the better front of house delivery and experience we can create for customers. Because if you have a frustrated kitchen, that'll translate to the food, you get frustrated customers. It's the same thing with technology, with marketplaces. Create great tools for our sellers, business owners, and then that translates into their products and then a great experience for the end customers. So everything's full circle. What I've learned up to this point in my life, they all kind of like are a virtuous circle.
Yeah. No, speaking of circle, because I was just thinking how really culturally, I feel like there's something about hospitality in Filipinos where just like people tell me all the time, I feel like they're the most hospitable and friendly, and we get people, we understand people, we somehow can read into people really well. We can call them on their BS. It's just like, there's something about that. It's like a sixth sense or something. I don't know. And nobody has to tell us anything. We already know, right? What they're thinking and feeling, and we care about how they're feeling. For some reason, that's just ingrained in our culture. And especially with you and your skills set, like talent with food, that is so fascinating. I can't wait to see. So like, what's in the future for you? We can, end on that note, and I would love for you to talk about what else that you want to end with.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been trying to vision what the strategy is for next year, but it's continuing to do more of what I'm doing, but pushing one new boundary and comfort zone for me. Like, so next quarter, I'm hoping to do my own pop-up with fine dining. That scares me because I'm comfortable with like fast casual, fast food, premium fast food style service. Just like I'll make you a smash burger, give it to you, versus like, here's a 5-course menu of like translating my experience with Filipino food and expressing myself that way. I've always been the sous chef for support, just for like that slide that we showed.
Yeah.
But I want to push myself outside of my comfort zone and do that. just to see what I'm made of.
That's
And I'm getting a lot of support from my friends and chef mentors. They're like, how do you think we felt when we did that for the first time? Like, we messed up, but through the failures and mistakes, you get better. And they're like, don't worry, we'll be there for you. We'll be your sous chef. I was like, okay, my mentor will be my under chef.
Oh, they love you.
I can't fail. Like,
that's awesome.
So that's looking like maybe February or March here in San Francisco, but going to continue with the content creation. So like, check me out if you want to learn new recipes or techniques.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to reduce or phase out of my design consulting services. I have started to really love design career coaching. Just that's another thing I think I feel about Filipinos. I feel like I'm a really good coach.
Yeah.
Like being helping people be accountable, mentoring them on like my experience with the industry. I tell them like that's 50% of the time I will tell you what to do, best practices. The other 50% of the time I will coach you and ask you questions so you develop your own internal compass and know what matters to you. Because ultimately I can't tell you what matters to you, but I can tell you how to get the job that you want that does matter to you. So I want to do more of that. Maybe decrease some of my consulting services because it's a bit more intensive.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, should I start a design agency and hire designers in the Philippines? And I'm like, I like the idea of it, but again, the long-term thing, I'm like 5-10 years from now, do I want to be doing this? Probably not. So that's just the entrepreneurship mindset, right? It's like,
no, I know.
Another opportunity. But how much time and energy do I really have? So
yeah, no, I've been sharing your website. I was trying to pull up your I wanted to just pull up at least the visual for it, but I have all your handles shared even when we lost you for a second. And so for people to try to follow you and follow your journey and just reach out to you. So people can actually book private events with you too?
Yeah, just reach out to me through my email. I need to make a cooking email because everything's in my inbox. But yeah, just reach out to me through email.
You want me to share your email?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Cool.
Email is good. That is correct. Yes. And you can reach out to me on Instagram too.
Follow on YouTube. Instagram, I know, is dicey because we get spam all the time.
Like, it is. Also, I have like these apps in place to like block me from using Instagram. So there's a lot of friction. So right, like talking about UX, it's like what's positive friction, what's like negative friction. I'm like, oh, it's so hard to get on an Instagram, so I get on it less. So sometimes I miss messages.
Like because of all the distraction, it just like you get sucked into it too.
Yeah, and then I start like researching competitors longer than I expect and getting sucked in a hole. And I'm like, oh, whoops, I've been on Instagram 2 hours today. Yeah. That was the best use of my time, unless it was intentional, right? But it wasn't.
Yeah. So. No, I know. At the end of the day, that's when I kind of like do my little browse. But yeah, no, I thank you so much. This was awesome. I loved hearing all kinds of things that you're getting into, and you're definitely heavily focusing now, right? It's so tempting to want to get into other things too, but maybe just like
I'm trying to.
And you've reached a level of success, really with your chef career and food. And so keep going there. And then you've got your expertise in design and everything. So I look forward to seeing how it all pans out for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a joy. This last year of like full-time entrepreneurship, I've learned the most. It's felt chaotic at times, but I feel like I wouldn't have learned this much like doing the normal 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
It's just my last thing I'll say is like my relationship to time has changed dramatically. Like time, make it sound like a proverb. Time is like a non-renewable asset, right? Like you can't create it again. Money, you can always make money. So like just protect your time and realize your energy is also important. So like spend time thinking about what you really want to do. with your time.
Yeah.
Like
No, it's really
reflecting
true.
on it, because you can always earn more money, but you can't earn more time. So
I love that. I love that mindset. I will go ahead and just share this one more thing, and then we could end on that. People reach out, follow him. Thank you so much again for hopping on my show. I would love to interview more awesome guests like Geronimo. I'll see you on the other side.
cool. Thank you.
Bye.